Hello, welcome back to Math 1342, Statistics. Today we're going to go ahead and continue where we left off, which is section 3.1. And before we do, let's go ahead and get the announcements out of the way. So now on every video, I've gone ahead and provided the links for the information I've mentioned before, right? That is the loaner laptop. That's going to be the information for Office 365, so you can go ahead and get Excel for free. And all those links, right? So you're gonna see those in the description now, so they can just be easy to access, right? Whenever you're either on your phone watching these lectures or from the comfort of your home, like in your laptop, from at home, from your laptop or your desktop. Discussion one is due soon, so let's please make sure we get that completed as soon as possible. Mostly we have already done so, right? So if you've already done so, you don't have you don't have to worry about that. This here is going to be the last video for week 2, which means we are halfway through exam 1 material. Not bad, right? As long as we're keeping up with the work, as long as we're writing everything down in our notes and keeping our information organized, we should be fine, right? We should be fine. If not, let's go ahead and work with that. And last but not least, tutoring. Let's not forget that's free, right? I don't want you spending 3 to 4 hours on a question when you can either send me an email, right? I'll try to go ahead and reply to you as soon as possible. If the question is too complex, we can go ahead and schedule a Zoom appointment, or you can also go ahead and schedule an appointment through Lone Star Kingwood campus, right? And we've mentioned this before that this can be done in person by appointment or online by appointment as well. And let's jump straight to it, right? Let's go ahead and get started with section 3.1 material. Okay, so for this section, we're going to be talking about mean, median, mode, mid-range, range, and this should sound familiar, right? Most of us have already seen this from our previous math courses, right? If not, then it's okay, right? It's pretty straightforward. So what we're going to go ahead and be doing for this video is going to be finding the mean, right? Finding the average of a sample mean or a population mean, right? And this is where the notation is going to be very important for this class, right? Because you'll soon see as the class progresses, it's going to be very difficult, right, to keep writing out mean, writing out mid-range, midpoint, standard deviation, which is coming soon, right? Not yet. So you're going to have to memorize, just know these by variables, right? By variables. So to find the sample mean, right, a mean from a sample data, this is going to be capital X bar is equal to this sigma here, capital X, divided by n, right? Which is right here. And you might be asking, what does that mean, right? So this sigma here, right, that right there, that is summation, right? That pretty much means add up everything together that you have, right? Add up everything together. More specifically, it's stating here that I have to add all of my x's, right? All of my x's. So in other words, let's go ahead and zoom in here. I'm going to go ahead and be adding my x1 value, my second x value, my third x value, and so forth until you stop, right, at a specific n value. And that n value just means how many values were we talking about, right? How many values did your data have? Did it have 5? Did it have 20? Did it have 1,000, right? And that's what that little n is going to stand for right here, right? It's going to represent the total number of values in our sample, right? Our sample. Then we may also see the population mean, right? Where we're dealing with population data, right? And that's going to be denoted by that little u, with the extended little line in the front, which is a mu, right? It's pronounced a mu, not that mu, right? Not that mu, but it is mu. And mu is going to be very similar to the sample mean, right? To x bar, which is going to be mu, is equal to adding up all those values and dividing it by n. And we just need to remember that whenever we're dealing with population and we see capital N, that means the same thing as little n in the sample examples, right? Where n, capital N just represents the total number of values in the population, right? Right there. And you can see here mu with, right, the formula for mu would be the sum of x values divided by capital N. Right. So let's go ahead and apply this, right? Let's go ahead and, what does this mean, right? What does this mean? Let's go ahead and get some extra space here. All right. And I have these values here, right? I have these values here. I have 2, 4, 1, 7, 7, and 11. All right. So in other words, let me find my n first. Let me find my n. Right, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my n is going to be 6. Right, my n is going to be 6 for this sample data. Right, and I'm asked to find the sample mean. Right, I need to find the sample mean. So to go ahead and explain everything, x1 is going to be 2. x2 is going to be 4. x3 is going to be 1, right? x4 is going to be 7, x5 is going to be 7, and x6 is going to be 11, right? So I've already identified my values, right? And I'm going to go ahead and plug this into that formula, right? My formula says x bar, right, which is my sample mean, is equal to my first x value plus my second x value, adding all of them together, which for here, it's going to be x to the 6th, right, divided by n, and we know my n is 6. Right, so in other words, this here is going to be 2 plus 4 plus, I'm going to add all these together, all the way up to 11, and then I'm gonna divide all of that by 6. So let's go ahead and do that, right? Let me go ahead and get my calculator. Let's follow along. This is going to be 2 plus 4 plus 1 plus 7 plus 7 plus 11. When I add all those up together, I get 32, right? 32 divided by 6, all right? 32 divided by 6. So my x bar is 32 divided by 6. And that here is going to be 5 point, right? Let's just say we're rounding up to 1 decimal, right? So this is going to be 5.3, right? So the mean for this given sample data is 5.3. If you were doing these homework problems and you realize, hey, I plugged in the correct value, but it's saying that I rounded incorrectly, but I'm looking at this data, but it's correct. Sometimes that may happen, right? And if you're sure that you typed in the correct information, contact me immediately and I'll go ahead and review your information, right? What I would recommend is you send me the question as well as the data that was given to you, and as well as, what is that sub question asking, right? Because it happens, right? It happens, and I've had a few of you already contact me regarding that that issue, right? So if you have any questions or concerns regarding that, just please contact me immediately. So yeah, there we go. That is my sample mean. So now we'll be moving forward to median, right? Where median is my midpoint is the midpoint of my data, right? So what you need to do is, the first step you should do is make sure you're organizing these in ascending order, right? From smallest to biggest. So let's go ahead and do that here. Let's do, I have 1, 2, 4, 7, 7, 11, right? And you're going to want the center value, right? You're going to want the center value of these numbers, right? So in other words, how you could do this is cancel out the outsides and then until you're with whatever you're left in the middle. You should be left with just one thing. If you're not left with one thing, we'll go ahead and approach that, right? We'll see what happens. I'm going to exclude this one and this one. I'm going to then exclude this one and this one. But if I exclude both of them, or if I exclude 4 and 7, I'm going to be left with nothing. Okay, so to find the midpoint in a scenario like this, you're going to get the mean of the two middle values. So I'm going to get 4 plus 7, and I'm always going to be dividing that by 2, right? So my 4 plus 7, that gives me 11 over 2, right? And 11 over 2, we'll keep it to 1 decimal, right? This is going to be 5.5, right? That is going to be my median. All right, let's say that we had the other case, right, where you had an odd number of values. Let's just say 1, 2, 3, 11, something like that, right? I'll still go ahead and do the same thing. Let me cancel these out. I'll cancel this out. Look at that. That's the only one left, right? So this means that my median is 3. Okay. We're gonna keep dealing with the same values, right? 2, 4, 1, 7, 7, and 11, right? The mode is going to be the value that repeats the most, right? That repeats the most. If no values repeat, then you have no mode, right? So for here, the value that repeats itself would be 7, right? So my mode is 7 because it repeats itself twice, right? If you're given an example where you have 2, 4, 6, 10, and 23, and you're trying to find the mode, well, none of them repeat. Well, that's fine. Then no mode, right? There's no mode. If you're given data like 1, 1, 2, 2, 6, and 11, right? You can have more than 2 modes. You can, right? So I have mode. I actually have modes, right? My one mode is going to be 1, and the other one is going to be 2. Right? And last but not least, right? Let's just say you have 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 7. What do we think? My mode is going to be 1 because that's the one that repeats the most. Okay, we're going to go ahead and find the mid-range now, right? My mid-range is going to be the lowest value that I have added to my added to the smallest value that I have and divided by 2. So my smallest value here is 1. The largest value I have there is 11, and I'm going to divide that by 2. Right? So that's going to give me 12 divided by 2, and that's going to give me 6. So my mid-range for this data is going to be 6. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and find all this, right? We're going to go ahead and find range. We're going to find the lowest value, the smallest value, my n, my mean, my median, and my mode, but in Excel, right? Let's go ahead and do this in Excel. Right? Let's go ahead and move this up here. Right? So the sample data, right? The sample data that's given to me are these values here, right? Are these values there. And one of the things I want to find would be n, right? The other one I may want to find is min, max, range, while I'm at it, right? Range. Let's find mean, median, mode, right? And mid-range, right? Okay. Let me go ahead and, ooh, no, what did I do? We'll leave like this. There you go. Okay. So first things first, right? One thing you want to do is I'm going to highlight this entire column, right? A. I'm going to highlight that. And then I'm going to go to sort, right? Let's go ahead and sort right here in editing. And I'm going to sort from smallest to largest. Right? Smallest to largest, right? Okay, that looks nice. So let's go ahead and find n. All right, let's go ahead and find n. So my n value is going to be how many values I have there, right? So here we can see, it's 13, but we can type an equation into Excel that'll give me that value, because sometimes you may have blocks of data, right? It might not be a row, and right, we're not going to sit there, and especially if we're dealing with very, very large values, right? In the thousands, right? So let's go ahead and find how many values I have. So I'm going to type in equal to start my equation. I'm going to type count. I'm going to open my parentheses. And I'm going to click and highlight the cells of interest, right? So it's going to be from A1 all the way down to A13. I'm going to let go. And then I'm going to close this parentheses and click enter. And right there, it gives me that value. That value is going to be 13. Awesome. All right. To find my min, this is going to be equal min. Where's that? There we go. Min. Open parentheses, and the same thing. I'm going to click and highlight. And it should give me the smallest value, right? It's going to give me the smallest value. I mean, and we know it's going to be 1706 because I arranged it from small to largest, but your data might not always be right sorted. So I'm going to close parentheses, and it gives me 1706. Right? I'm going to do the same thing with max, equal max, open paren. One thing you can do, let's just say that you couldn't click and hold, right? Let's just say you couldn't click and hold the first time, and we see this cell is being highlighted. One thing you can do is click on the far right here, click and hold, and drag this all the way down, up to there, right? So now I'm going to close this, and it gives me 8811, right? Gives me 8811. My range is going to be the max value minus my lowest value, right? So in other words, it's going to be my max minus my min. The great thing about Excel is that if you've already found that information, you don't have to keep typing a new equation. So for range, I'm going to do equal. I'm going to click on my max value, which is here on E2, and I'm going to subtract minus the value from my min, and I'm going to click there, and then I'm going to click enter. That is my range. It's 7,101. Right? It's 7,101. Now, to find my mean, remember, mean is just the average, right? That's just the average of your data, right? I'm going to go ahead and type in equal, and it doesn't have it as mean. Excel doesn't have it as mean. It has it as average. I'm going to type in average, open parentheses, and the same thing. I'm going to include all this data. I'm going to close parentheses, and that is my mean, right? My median, it does have median, so it's going to be equal median, open parentheses, highlight your data, close parentheses, enter. It does have mode. It's going to be equal mode, right? And it's going to give me the value that repeats the most, right? If it repeats. So let's go ahead and do that, close it. And not available means there isn't a mode. There is no mode, right? If you had data, right, where it was, let's just say 1, 1, 2, let's go ahead and do 0. That's what I meant. I'm sorry. 0, right? 3, 5, 7, 7, 7, 8, right? Let's go here, right? Let's go ahead and find the mode. Equal mode. I'm going to highlight all these, and it should be 7, right? What is my mode going to be? 7, right? So it's okay if your mode comes out as not available, right? And our mid-range, right, we said that was going to be equal. It is going to be the max value plus my min value divided by 2. Since that is, right, that is a, there are 2 variables on top. So one thing you want to divide both things by 2, right? So what you would do here is I'm going to open parentheses. I'm going to click on max, add parentheses. I'm sorry, not add parentheses, plus my min value. Now I'm going to close parentheses, but now I know I want to divide by 2, right? Divide by 2, and there's my mid-range. It is 5,285.5, right? If you want Excel to give you less decimal points, right? Let's just say for the mean right here, right? Oh, you don't want 3 decimal points, you want 1. You're going to go here to where it says number, and you're going to click on this value, right, to decrease decimal. So if you click on it, look what happens to the 0.308, 0.31, and if you do it again, it gives you 0.3, right? And you can go the other way, right? If you wanted more decimal values, you can click, right? And it'll give you all those values. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. Right. Now for example 2, right? We're going to have a different example. We're going to be asked to find the mean and mode of class for group data, right? So this means the class is going to be given to me in a column, like right here. Right, let's go ahead and highlight that, right? Let's see if we can highlight that. Let's go ahead and do yellow, right? The frequency is going to be given to me, right? And it's going to be up to me to find the midpoint, and it's going to be up to me to find, and just real quick for midpoint, it's going to be capital X subscript M, right? So from here on out, if I were to ask you that in the exam, that means midpoint. So this is the point where flashcards are very helpful, right? Where flashcards are very helpful. And then you're going to want to find the product of frequency and midpoint, right? In other words, the frequency times the midpoint, right? So let's go ahead and do that, right? So do you remember what the midpoint was? Yeah, right? That is the smallest value plus the highest value in your class divided by 2, right? So this means that is going to be 0.5, right? That comes from my class, 0.5 plus 3.5 divided by 2. And this is going to give me 2, right? I have 6.5 plus 3.5, right, divided by 2. This is going to give me 5, right? Then I have 9.5 plus 6.5 divided by 2. That gives me 8. Then I have 12.5 plus 9.5. That gives, divided by 2. Let's not forget to divide by 2. That's going to give me 11. Right? And what do we think the last one is going to be? 14, right? Very nice. Okay. Now, one thing we can go ahead and do now that we found the midpoint, let's go ahead and fill in the last column, right? The frequency times midpoint. So that's going to be 8 times 2, right? That's all they're doing. 8 times 2, that's going to be 16. Then I'm going to find that for the second row, 10 times 5, that's going to give me 50. Third row, that's going to give me 56. And we're going to fill all these in, right? We're going to fill all these in. right? Awesome, right? So I've already found my frequency times midpoint and my midpoint. Now let's go to the frequency column at the very last row. You need to find sigma f, right? Which just means the sum of all f's, right? That just means add up everything in your frequencies. So that means that's going to be 8 plus 10. Let's do that here. 8 plus 10. Oh, it doesn't stretch out. So, okay. So it's just going to be 8 plus 10 plus 7 plus 9 plus 6. And that's going to give me 40. Right? Here in the last column, I'm asked to find the sum of that column. Right? So I'm going to do here 16 plus 50 plus 56 plus 99 plus 84. That gives me 305. Now that we have that information, I can find the mean for this data, right? I can find the mean now, right? And this step here is how you find the mean, right? How do you find the mean? It's this equation here. You get the sum of that last column, and you divide it by the sum of your frequencies, right? And that is the reason why I wanted to find those sums, right? That's the reason I wanted to find those sums. So it's going to be the red highlighted area divided by the green highlighted area, right? In other words, it's going to be here red divided by green, right? And 305 divided by 40, this is going to be 7.625, 7.625, right? But if you're asked for just one decimal, right? This is going to be 7.6. 7.6. So that is how you find the mean for group data. If you're asked to find the modal class, right? Modal class, where your brain should be going is mode means the most of, right? And class means, right? Specifically, I'm talking about a class. So you're looking for the class that has the highest frequency. That's going to be the modal class, right? Right. So here, the modal class is, let's see the frequency column, right? Which one has the highest frequency? Oh, my modal class is 10, right? That's the one that happens the most. And that comes from the second class, 3.5 through 6.5, right? So my modal class is 10 coming from class 3.5 through 6.5. And to be sure that we're on the right track, I'm going to want to do this in Excel, right? I'm going to want to go ahead and do this in Excel, right? So the midpoint, right? The midpoint is, we said, is going to be equal to 3.5 minus midpoint, right? This is going to be 3.5 plus 0.5 close parentheses divided by 2, right? That's how I would plug it in. And it gives me that, right? It gives me 2. I'm going to want to create a new equation as well. This is going to be 6.5 plus 3.5 close parentheses divided by 2. That's going to give me 5. And we see that happening, right? We see that from your 5, 8, 11, and 14, right? 8, 11, and 14, all right? I then want to go ahead and find the frequency times midpoint, right? And this is going to be a fun one, right? This is going to be a fun one. And this works whenever you have columns right next to each other, right? So, and whenever you're using cells, right? And cells are these little blocks, right? Cells are little blocks. So here, I'm going to want to do equals, and I know it's going to be 8 times 2, right? So I don't want to plug in 8, and you'll see why. I'm going to plug in the value inside the cell, which is 8, times the value right next to it, right? That midpoint, which is 2. And I'm going to click enter. right? So what happened here, it's multiplying the values inside those two cells, right? And you might be asking, do I have to do this again and again and again? No, what's awesome is that if you click on this cell and you see that on the bottom right, that dark little cube, I want you to click on the hover over it. It's going to have this little plus sign. I want you to click and drag all the way down. And look at that. So what happened, it was in here, you typed an equation that uses these two cells. By dragging it down, it copies that same two equation, but to the lower cells, right? To the lower cells. And if you go over right where the 50 is at, it shows you, right, the equation, it multiplies those two, right? If you go down to the lower equation, it multiplies those two. If you go to the lower equation, right, you see it multiply those two, right? The blue and the red. So that's awesome, right? That's awesome. If you want to find your count, right? If in case you wanted to find your count, as you know, as a refresher, we said this was going to be what? Right, equal count, open paren. I'm gonna count all those values, and it should give me 5. Yeah, right. So my n is right. My n would have been 5, right? Are we using this here? No, we're not using n here, right? We're not using n here. Now I want to find the sum of my frequencies, right? The sum of my frequencies, and there's two ways you can do this, right? You can go ahead and highlight this information, right? You can go from the very top, highlight the very top, and you want to highlight an empty cell where you want the answer to be projected, right? You can go to the far right here, top right, and you can click on auto sum right there, auto sum. And you see that? That is the sigma, right? So let's remember that. Sigma is just a simplification of saying add up everything that you have together, right? You're going to click on auto sum, and it's going to give me 40. Right? If for some reason, right, we can't find that button, or we have an older or newer version of Excel, or a different version of Excel, and it's not available, that's fine. We can see what we can do for the other column, right? We can go ahead and do equal, and what do we think? What's going to be the equation we can use? Sum, right? Sum, open parentheses. Let me highlight all these values, close parentheses. And that's 305, right? So at 40, 305, 40, 305, exactly what we had, right? And now I'm going to make a column for mean information, right? For mean data, which is going to be this shaded green. Green's nice, right? Ooh, not that one. Shaded that color green, right? That color green. So that means now to find my mean, it is going to be equal. We know it is the sum of this frequency times midpoints, which is 305, divided by the sum of my frequencies, which is 40. And I'm going to click on 40 and click enter. And there we go. The mean for this data is going to be 7.625. You want it less decimals, you say? Okay. Let's go up here to number, and I only want 1 decimal right there. So 7.6. 7.6. Okay, let's go ahead and now continue to example 3. Right, we're going to do example 3. The data shown, right, the data shows the number of children U.S. presidents had. Construct an ungrouped frequency distribution and find the mean and modal class. All right. The keyword here is going to be ungrouped, right? One thing you might be ungrouped is just in other words, your class isn't going to have a range, right? Your class isn't going to have a range. So let's go ahead and go to example 3, right? And it is those values right there. I exported into Excel, and it gave me this, right? It gave me that. Right, so I have all these values. Let me go ahead and arrange them in ascending order. Right. And right, our question had asked, they want me to construct an ungrouped frequency distribution table, right? So that means I'm going to go from my smallest value all the way to my highest, and those are going to be my classes, right? So it's only going to be 0, 1, 2, all the way to 10. One thing you can do also with Excel is if it's noticing a pattern, right? If it's noticing you're doing a pattern, you can do the same thing similar to what we did before, right? Let me highlight 0, 1, and 2, right? They already highlighted. And again, I'm going to click on the bottom right and drag until I get the number that I want, right there, right? So this, right? So that means it won't be necessary anymore for you to type 0 spacebar 2, you know, down arrow. It'll automatically do it for you, right? Let me go ahead and box these up, right? Now, so that's my class is going to be 0 all the way up to my largest value, right? My frequency is going to be how many times that number appears, right? So for 0, it appears 4 times. 1 appears 1, 2, 3, 4 times. 2 appears 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 3 appears 2 times. 4 appears 1, right? 5 appears 4 times. 6 appears 1 time. 7 appears twice. 8 appears once. 8 appears once. 9 appears 0 times, and 10 appears once. All right, so that's going to be my frequencies. And here, right, we can go at this point. You can go ahead and find the sum of the frequencies, right? Let's go ahead and click auto sum. So it's going to be 25, right? And since if you notice, my class is unbounded, right? It's ungrouped. That means you're not going to have a midpoint, right? There's no midpoint you can take. So that won't be necessary. And now for this column, yeah, this column shouldn't be frequency times midpoint. This here should be frequency times class, right? Frequency times class for this example, right? Your frequency times class is going to be, right, exactly what it wants us to do. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is press equal my you can do frequency times class or times class times frequency. It doesn't matter, right? But still, let's go ahead and do frequency times the class, right? Click enter, right? And 0 times 4 gives me 0, right? I can do equal frequency 4 times class, enter, gives me 4. Do I want to do this all the time? No, right? I'm going to go ahead and click on this cell and highlight all the way down so you can compute all those for me. And there we go. It went ahead and filled up all that information for me. And of course, I need to go ahead and get that sum, right, of my frequency times class. So let's go ahead, right? And when and why do I know that I have to do that? Well, you do that for your ungrouped data, right? Data that doesn't have a midpoint, right? And you're specifically asked to create an, ungrouped table. So let's go ahead and sum all these, right? That's going to give me 82. And my mean is going to be the same, right? My mean is going to be the same. This is going to be equal my frequency times class divided by the sum of my frequency. I click enter, and that's going to be 3.28, right? 3.28. Let's just say that I actually wanted this cell, that value up there. What you do is you click on this cell, and you hover on the border until you see those 4 arrows. You click and you drag it up here, and it'll move the equation for you, right? So my mean is 3.28. I wanted 1 decimal point, so that means it is going to be 3.3. Right? If you're asked to find your modal class, right? Modal class. All right. You're looking at your frequencies, the frequency that has the most, all right? The frequency that has the most. and that'll be mode equal mode parentheses, highlight all my frequencies, right? Close parentheses, and that'll be 1, right? Oh no, the highest value. Oh, it's not. I'm not looking for the mode of that data, right? So it wouldn't work here in this example. I'm sorry. So it's not the value that repeats the most there. That's what I'm not what I'm looking for, because I'm dealing now with frequencies, right? I'm not dealing with individual values. And we said that to find the modal class for the modal class, you look at your frequencies and the one that has the highest, right? And that value here would be 5, right? So my frequency would be 5 specifically for class 2, right? Specifically for class 2. So that would be, in other words, what you can do here is find max, right? You can find the highest value there and close, right? And it'll be 5. So my modal class would be 2. Right? These are my answers in green. Very nice. Right? And let's go ahead and go to the last example, right? To the last example. Right? You're gonna, the keyword here for these next ones, right, is going to be the weighted mean, right? Which is still pretty similar to what we've been doing, right? It's still the same formulas. It's just going to be, it's just going to look a little bit differently, but it's still going to be the same information. Very similar to the class that we did, right? Right here. Very similar to that one. An instructor grades exams, 30% for a term paper, 30% for a final exam, and exams 30%, term paper 30%, and a final exam, which is 40%. A student has grades 88, 90, and 96 respectively, right? And respectively means that if you listed something before it, the new list has, it follows that pattern, right? So in other words, the 30% belongs to the 88, the 30% belongs to the 90, and the 40% belongs to the 96. And it says it right here, right? For exams, term paper, and final exam, respectively. Find the student's final average. Use the weighted mean, right? Use the weighted mean. Right, so let's do this one by hand, right? I think we've done a few Excels, right? We've done a few Excels. I'm going to find my pen. Right, so I want to go ahead and make a column, right? Let me go ahead and make a column first of the assignments I'm dealing with, right? With the assignments I'm dealing with. That looks good. Yeah, that looks good. So assignments, right? Let's go ahead and label the weight. Right, I got weight, which is weight, and have grades. I'll go ahead and give that a letter soon. Then I'm going to have to multiply two things, right? Right. The first assignment is going to be the exams. The second assignment is going to be term papers. And the last one is going to be the final exam, right? Final exam. And we said this was 88, 90, and 96. Oh, wrong area, I'm sorry. 88, 90, and 96. Right? The weight, right, is 30%, is 30%. And 40%. Right, very, very nice. Right, and you want the weight, right? You want the weight always to be your little W, and you're going to what your grades, right? You want the grade for each assignment to be your capital X, right? So that'll be my X. And I know whenever I'm doing these, right? Like before, we were doing the midpoint times frequency. For the previous problem, we were doing the frequency times class. For this one, it's going to be my weight times my grades, right? going to be x. And one thing to remember is I'm not going to do 30 times 88, right, to find w times x, because we cannot, remember, we cannot, whenever we're dealing with percentages, I think I have that here too, right? Remember, when percentages, it must be converted before using them, right? So instead of dealing with 30, you need to move that decimal twice over, right? 1, 2, so this is going to be 0.30, or in other words, you can do 30 divided by 100, right? And if you do 30 divided by 100, it gives you 0.30, right? This one's also going to be 0.30. This is going to be 0.40. All right, so now let's go ahead and multiply those. Let's do 0.30 times 88. This is going to give me 26.4. I'm going to do the second column for the papers. 0.30 times 90. That's going to give me 27. And then the last but not least is going to be 0.40 times 96. This is going to give me 38.4, right? I want to find the sum of my weights, right? This is going to be here. And then I'm also going to find the sum of this last column. All right, this last column. It's a little bit lighter, so I can find the formula here, right? So this here is going to be the sum W, right? 0.30 plus 0.30 plus 4.0, that gives me 1.0. And the sum of that last column is 26.4 plus 27 plus 38.4, which gives me 91.8, right? So that means that the student's final average is going to be 91.8. And that is how you find the weighted mean. So this pretty much covers the entire section, right? This covers 3.1. Good luck. Not good luck, right? I don't like saying good luck. Happy studying. There we go. Happy studying for this upcoming, finishing up section 3.1 homework. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out with any questions or concerns you may have. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for watching.